Prince Harry didn't just return to the UK, he walked into silence. No flashbulbs, no cheering crowds, no royal welcome, just emptiness. For a man who was once Britain's golden boy, the soldier prince with Diana's spark, that silence was deafening. And the cruelest part? Everyone knew it was coming. This wasn't a shock. It was the price of years spent burning bridges, of endless interviews, of tell-alls that pulled the curtain too far. Harry reportedly flew in with a list of demands: security, press control, the works, as if he still set the rules. But Britain's response was colder than any rejection. Not fury, not scandal, just indifference. And that cuts deepest. Because when a nation that once adored you doesn't react at all, it means something worse than hate. It means they've moved on. No aides at the airport, no family at his side, no word from the palace, just silence. Like a man knocking on a door he once slammed shut, only to realize no one's waiting behind it. Harry's fall didn't happen in a single moment. It was slow, messy, and painfully public. At first, people blamed Meghan for pulling him away. Now they blame him, because at some point, Harry stopped being the prince swept up in love and became the man who wouldn't stop talking about it. Every time he spoke, it was another complaint, another revelation, another family wound dragged into the spotlight. And that spotlight, once his power, became his curse. The press that once adored him now mocks him. Headlines no longer praise, they call him irrelevant. And here's the truth: once you lose the crowd, you can't just walk back in and expect applause. Harry thought he could live in two worlds, the freedom of California and the respect of the crown. But you can't attack the institution and then expect it to save you. The shift in tone is brutal. Once it was Harry's breaking free. Now it's Harry's desperate for attention. What used to feel brave now feels bitter. People remember the Netflix deal, the Oprah interview, the memoir, but instead of sympathy, they feel exhaustion. The story hasn't changed, only the stage lights have. What once felt like honesty now feels like branding, and that's where the damage lies. Because royalty survives on mystique, on silence, on dignity. Harry traded all of that for exposure, and once the mystique is gone, you can't get it back. Even the palace, famous for never flinching, has stopped pretending. Charles is busy with duty, William is focused on the future. No one has time to babysit a prince who walked away, but still wants the perks. That cold shoulder wasn't about schedules, it was a message. From the crown, from the country. A message that said, we're done. And that silence, that's the loudest thing Harry's heard in years. He used to be the relatable royal, the one who laughed with crowds, hugged strangers, and carried Diana's memory with quiet strength. People felt like he was theirs. But somewhere along the way, the connection broke. The charm faded. And now, when his name hits headlines, it brings eye rolls, not admiration. The problem is simple. Harry kept talking, again and again, the same wounds, the same accusations, the same spotlight. And people tuned out, not because they didn't care, but because they'd heard it all before. His story, once raw and powerful, became repetitive, predictable. The public gave him grace when he stepped back. They sympathized when he said the palace didn't protect him. But when the pain turned into PR strategy, when private heartbreak became another product to sell, that's when the tide shifted. Because once trauma becomes a brand, trust disappears. In Britain, loyalty to family still matters, even among critics of the monarchy. And Harry broke that rule over and over. Private conversations became public ammunition. Generations of royal struggles became content. Some cheered the honesty, but to many it felt like betrayal, not just of the monarchy, but of family itself. Meanwhile, the royal machine moved on. William stepped further into his role. Kate stayed steady. The crown, as always, endured. That contrast only made Harry's noise seem louder, more desperate. And the palace's silence? That wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Let him talk. Let the story swirl. Eventually the noise fades, but Harry is still talking. Louder, harsher, like a man shouting into a room that's already emptied. Even loyal supporters are growing quiet. Not angry, not betrayed, just tired. And that is his greatest danger. Not outrage, irrelevance. Because in the royal world, silence isn't just golden, it's survival. And Harry, once the prince who could win the world with a smile, now finds himself explaining, performing, pleading, while no one is listening. The harshest truth he faces isn't hate, it isn't criticism, it's apathy, indifference. And for someone raised in the spotlight, that silence is terrifying. California was meant to be his reset, his chance to build something new. But no matter how far he runs, he can't outrun the shadow of the monarchy. Every project, every interview, every deal always circles back to the very crown he to escape, and people see it. They see the cycle: interview, accusation, contract, controversy, repeat. At first, it drew curiosity, then fatigue. Now, irritation. What once felt like a bold breakaway has become a soap opera. The audience is still there, but they're not clapping anymore. They're scrolling past, because no matter how loud the headlines are, the story feels stale. The irony is cruel. Harry had everything: respect, legacy, the love of the people. He could have been the bridge between tradition and modernity. Instead, he tried to burn it all down. And now he stands alone in the ashes, wondering why no one followed. The saddest part? His harshest critics aren't palace loyalists. They're the very people who once believed in him, who rooted for his freedom, who wanted him to succeed. But now even they are stepping back. Not because they love the monarchy, but because Harry doesn't feel real anymore. Every move looks rehearsed, every grievance monetized. The vulnerability that once made him beloved now feels manufactured. Even the press, who once feasted on every headline, has grown weary. Because there are only so many ways you can write. Exiled prince speaks out again. At some point, it stops being news. And that's the moment Harry never prepared for, when the cameras turn away, not because they're blocked, but because they're bored. In today's world, even controversy has an expiration date. And Harry's has passed. He isn't the rebel prince anymore. He's the man who can't stop talking about what he walked away from. The man who lost the crown, his family, and now the audience. Not because people can't forgive, but because they've already moved on. The legacy he's building now isn't rebellion, it isn't reform. It's regret, not for leaving, but for what he became after. Because true royalty isn't about birthright, it's about mystery, discipline, silence. And Harry, for all his intentions, never learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.